Yes, good afternoon, everybody. This is Fanny Schenk and Dirk Sinka from Across Health. Really happy to present you with the 8th or 9th iteration of the Maturometer results, which has some really interesting new findings. So welcome. I will be joined by Dirk. Dirk also presented last year's session, and maybe Dirk could say a few words about yourself.
Yes, of course. Hello, everybody. My name is Dirk Zinker, and I work for Across Health in Germany. I joined Across in September 2014, working as a senior consultant, and took over in I think it was May 2015, the German entity. Very looking forward to sharing with you guys some insights of the actual Maturometer survey and focusing on the different sections, and I will take over in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Dirk. So, without further ado, we have a few ground rules to cover. It's not a live interaction session, so if you have questions, you can, let's say, put them in the Ask a Question tab. Please feel free to do that. We will answer those questions at the end. We'll cover about 40 minutes of slides. It's a condensed deck, so it's not the full deck that you will see, but we've taken, I believe, the most important ones from the deck here. We'd like to hear your feedback as well. So there's a rate this button. Feel free to complete that as you feel. There's also a small survey available in the attachment part. And as always, the webinar will be recorded and will be made available quite soon afterwards. So looking forward to sharing with you some of the key results from the survey. We've been doing this since 2008, 2009, so we go back a long time because we as Across Health believe strongly that this is not just about digital campaigning, but really also about changing the organization. So digital maturity is really key and core to what we do. For those who didn't know, this is, let's say, kind of a one-pager of our company. So we're well over 50 consultants. We work for quite a few pharma companies across the globe, have a strong presence in local markets, so 7 local markets, but we work in projects in many more. It's a balance of strategy, but also execution, so 45 plus percent in the strategy part. And in that strategy part, we also have a strong offering in terms of digital channel affinity of well over 15,000 physicians. That's called the Navigator, which now also covers patients as well as payers. And we've tried also to practice what we preach. So we've done a recent survey, an NPS survey, with our clients, which yielded a good score of 46 there. So happy to share that with you. And if you voted, thank you for that. So without further ado, the key survey statistics, because I think this is probably, and I'm sure this is the most comprehensive survey around digital maturity in pharma around. So we have 256 respondents this year. Last year we had 270. This is purely pharma and life sciences companies, so no agencies, no consultancies, purely people on the, let's say, client side. Most of them are from pharma and biotech. But we see also an increasing uptick in the medical medtech space, which now is 2%, but I think that will increase as well. It's a good balance between Europe. 48% are from Europe. The rest is from US and other markets across the globe. 47% have a national scope, so they work in local markets, and 53% have an international scope. So that too is well balanced. We have 35% in digital multi-channel, 25% in marketing, 10% in CRM, 9% in sales, and then the rest is a mix of other functions, including medical, for instance. In terms of level, once again, a good differentiation between the manager level and the senior level. Many of them are C-level executives, which I think is already an interesting insight in terms of the interest that we get from those delegates. And we cover a variety of DAs. The big one is oncology, followed by neurology, but as you can see here, there's many more that we can cover in the survey. So it's a well-balanced approach. And before we, let's say, embark on looking at some of the results, I'd like to ask a few questions. The first question is around digital transformation, the pace of digital transformation. I will, let's say, put up the question straight away. So, do you think that the pace of digital transformation in your company or more broadly has actually accelerated? So is there a stronger drive to do more in this space? Yes, it has markedly increased, decreased a bit. It's about the same level. It's a bit faster. It's much faster. So I'm going to put this to the vote. And feel free to, let's say, put your vote in as you go. So how do you feel about the pace of digital transformation? Is it faster, the same, slower, blindingly fast? I will give you about 1 minute to vote. And there's like 25 seconds left, so it's, when I'm seeing it evolving, it goes in all directions, which is interesting to see. Yeah, okay, I'm going to close in about 5 seconds. Yeah, okay. All right, interesting results. I think nobody voted it has markedly decreased, so that's a good one. The majority says it is faster now. It's 56%, 21% saying it's much faster, 14% saying it's the same level, and 28% saying it has decreased a bit. But I think the strong message we get here, at least from the delegates to this session today, which may not be fully representative of the market, but you have to start somewhere. Says it's faster, it's 56%, it's faster or much faster. I think that's very much in line with our experiences in the market as well. Some companies, it may be decelerating, but as we feel that a lot of noise starts to come in the market about doing this much better again, I think also that 28% of votes will see, I think, the momentum change in their market too. So clearly a positive note, and this is the result from our survey, which concluded, let's say we recruited until April, was something which was early 2016. And in terms of timing, actually, this is a really good representation of how things have changed in maybe a couple of months, 1 quarter, because what you see here is that people still believe that it is slow, and that, let's say, the beginning of the year, February to April. What I'm seeing here is, let's say, the results to date, which is end of July, and we too have seen that in the last couple of months, basically, that change has been coming much faster, so it's accelerating. So it was slow in the beginning of the year, but I think to everybody's joy, it is going much faster now. Second question, in terms of the biggest digital challenge for pharma, what do you think is that biggest? There's many, of course, possible, so we had to make a choice here. And I looked at 4 different drivers. On the one hand, the business case, so why should we do this? What is really the driving force for us to make this happen? Is it about strategy? Number 2, do we need to have more strategy to know where we're going, to feel secure that this is the right thing to do? Is it number 3, which basically is like we know where we're going, we know why we do it, but we don't have the right tools, the right people in place? Or is it number 4, we say, well, we have all of the above, but we really lack the ROI and the evidence to move forward. So we're still hesitant about this. So feel free to vote. The vote is open. Okay, I'm going to close in about 5 seconds. All right. So it's a bit mixed story. I think the key, the winner clearly is vision and strategy, and the next ones are basically twins, brothers. So the business case and of course evidence is closely related there, because the evidence will bring you the business case, and number 2 is the strategy. So number 3 was not selected by anybody. I think that's also what we see in the market. There's plenty of technology available, made available to people. There's more and more digital stuff made available. There's training going on, etc. But this is like a clear winner. It's about strategy, and I think a lot of companies say, well, we have a strategy, but I have not personally seen anything that really looks like strategy. So thanks for that. So that brings me to this one. This is a very old, let's say, slide. I like it a lot, or a very old strategy, or a very old concept. I like it a lot because I think it does play in pharma land too, where they say you need 4 components to actually have successful strategy, successful results. You need to have the need for change, which is the business case. Why do we do all of this? You need to have a vision and goal, strategy, basically your top score. You need to have the capability to change. That's the technologies, the processes, the people, the training. And you need to have the concrete first step, which is the evidence that you need to actually keep the momentum. So all of those 4, if you have all of those 4 ducks in a row, you will have successful change. If you miss one of those 4, the change will not be, let's say, will actually not happen. You don't have the need for change. The start will be slow. I think that has certainly played a role in pharma, where things have been going quite well for most companies for most of the time. So the drive to do this with limited competition from the Googles of this world, etc., was not so high. The number 2, which is your top voted one, and I think may spell some issues going forward. If you don't have a strategy, you will have lack of coordination, so different things going on in different places, which is what we've been seeing so far as well. If you don't have the capability to change, but you feel that's not really the issue, you would get frustration. People want to do it, but they can't. And then the 4th one, if you don't see results, there will be lack of action because people don't feel there's a good traction going there. So very old model to demonstrate the let's say the results. To demonstrate the impact of the 4 components that you see here for change management, and I think quite useful and applicable to pharma as well. So you need to have all 4 to be successful in change management. All right, coming back to, let's say, one of the key findings, and already taking some of the, let's say, the momentum that this is going to create. We see that the budgets are increasing, but also we see that the satisfaction levels continue to be low, which is interesting, because you would expect that if budgets go up, also satisfaction levels would go up, and this is not the case. So there's a few key drivers for dissatisfaction, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the training is not there, that the channel mix knowledge is not there, and also that marketing automation is not well in place either. So there's a few drivers for that. Dave will cover them in more detail, but I wanted to share that already with you, and we'll come back to that in a second. So with that, I'm handing over to Dirk for strategy and organization.
Okay, thanks, Fonny. So I just want to jump in the first section of the Maturometer survey. So starting with strategy and organization, we basically ask for the level of agreement regarding the respondents' some statements. And the first statement really strongly correlates with the results we heard from the poll in a couple of minutes before. So still only 1/4 of respondents claim that they completely agree having a strong digital transformation vision and strategy in place. The good news in this is that compared to the results from the 2016 survey, the senior management teams or the boards are getting more firmly behind those digital efforts. This is very important. 1/3 of the respondents claim that this is the case in their company. But just thinking about digital transformation, what does it mean? It's all about moving from, let's say, following a brand focus to ensuring a kind of a customer mindset, which needs to set or to be at a multi-departmental, multi-stakeholder, and even in a multi-channel aspect. But without senior team backing, this is very difficult to implement in a company. And the good news in this is, just as a pre-announcement, Across is still working on, let's say, a kind of a comprehensive digital transformation framework approach, which will be available around at the end of Q3 and Q4, especially in this context. What's also very remarkable is that the skill levels are still quite low in the perception of the respondent. And I'm sorry, I was too fast, too quick. But if we look from another perspective, from another side, asking for the self-perception of the physicians, asking them, how do you feel? Do you have sufficient knowledge of all opportunities offered today by the internet for your business activities? Still very remarkable that nearly 30 years after the emerge of the World Wide Web, the rating of their own knowledge, especially in the area claim I'm an expert, is compared to the historic results. You can see this on the left-hand side. All results from Maturometers are listed there at an all-time high. But practically spoken, on the right-hand side, you can see that the overall level is still very low. More than 50%, if you sum this up, from sufficient up to totally insufficient, feel in any way not very comfortable with their own level of knowledge. Even sufficient knowledge as part is, compared to 2016, down by 6%. That's, from my perspective, very remarkable, because most of us have already adopted digital elements in the communication with clients today. This is what we see in our daily business as well. So one would assume that the level of expertise would continuously grow over time. But reasons for this could be for the stagnation that more new people are joining teams, that the brand teams are stuffed with people with a lower level of experience, or even that the development and the digital is moving faster. But Pharma can keep up with this, and management expects brand teams to make the right channel selection. So skill development, from our perspective, must be in focus in the next years in a very strong way. These results also correlate with the identified bottlenecks. We always ask in the survey about what are the potential bottlenecks or hurdles for digital in the organization. They are changing over time, and there's a clear need for upskilling identified as well, but also the need for a more robust impact measurement framework and appropriate budget. We will see later on that the budget question is a very important one as well, and that the results coming from the actual survey show a really interesting picture. These three are the biggest increases compared to the other ones, but what else is important? The regulatory, legal, healthcare compliant issues is still on top, but with a slight decrease. But coming back to the ROI questions, by the way, in the 2016 Maturometer results, this bottleneck was, if I remember right, was decreasing. But the actual increase, we have a strong increase of 3.2%, could be triggered, for example, by the fact that ROI must not only be driven by, let's say, quantitative metrics, which are mostly the metrics and the key performance indicators in place, but also focusing on more qualitative aspects like customer engagement and customer experiences, which will also deliver a substantial contribution to a perfect ROI framework. Moving to the next slides, we always ask, are there teams in place, digital teams, people who support either on an international or on a national level? And here you can see the results for the question, is there a central digital team at the international level in place? The good news is that more than 80% of the respondents say that they have a digital team, but a little bit disappointing that the perceived impact of these teams is comparably low. The actual results we see here are comparable to older results of the year 2013 or 2014. Asking for the size of these teams, how big are they, how well are they staffed, you can see that these teams are relatively big. They are easily between 4 to 6 team members, partially up to more than 10, which is a really, really big team supporting on an international level. We ask the same question always for a local level. And here's a very interesting picture because also on the local level, there are more than 70% of the respondents who affirm that there's a team or even a person in place who supports this. And here there's a completely different picture. Nearly 1/3 claim that they feel that those local digital teams or people working and supporting the marketing team are very or highly effective. The reason for this could be, for example, that the local teams are a little bit more closer to the market, that they are getting things done on a more pragmatic approach. I still remember my own years when I was working for the pharmaceutical industry that international support sometimes is perceived as support on the lowest common denominator, which may impact the results here as well. Regarding the size of the local teams, you can see due to budget aspects, the teams are definitely smaller than on the international level, maybe between one person who's supporting on a central or maybe on a dedicated working space, or maybe teams up to 4 to 6 people who support the marketing teams in the daily work. We already asked these questions even for the fact, are there healthcare innovation teams and patient engagement teams in place? For the sake of completeness, you could see healthcare innovation teams have been established, but compared to the impact, the majority of respondents feel that the impact overall is not very high. And the same results also for the patient engagement teams. They're becoming more and more common, but the impact is here also perceived as very, very low. Moving to the section business and processes and technology, I would like to highlight the fact that in the integration of digital teams, we were already talking about this, in the existing infrastructure, like business processes or even in the IT infrastructure, the whole process behind this, there's a clear positive trend recognizable. But robust multi-channel orchestration supported by adequate processes and multi-channel campaign automation, for example, are still quite immature. From our perspective, a real multi-channel campaign automation basically means an intelligent and highly effective orchestration of customer interactions across a variety of channels and to guarantee on the other side, on the marketing side, a full visibility and control of all these things which are in place. But this basically is linked to an investment or to investments in total, both covering frameworks, setting up technical frameworks, but also up to marketing or multi-channel automation tools. Before I talk about the results coming from the Maturometer survey regarding the allocation of budget, I would also like to ask you a question. So what do you think about digital marketing spendings allocated to digital activities 2017 compared to the last years? Do you think that they are increasing? Do you think that they are slightly increasing in case, if it's possible? Or do you think they are remain stagnant, or are they decreasing? So I give you 1 minute to vote and looking forward for the results. We're just waiting a couple of seconds. The first votes are coming in. Interesting results. Let's wait for another 15 seconds. Okay, I will stop voting now. So results are very interesting. The majority of you, nearly 50%, say that the digital marketing spendings are slightly increasing, and the others say spendings are increasing or remaining stagnant. Just come to the results of the Maturometer survey. This is a real surprise. We recognize when we get the results from the survey. So the good news is, for the first time in, let's say, around about 5 years, we see a significant increase in digital spend. And that means, on average, that 90% of the budgets which are available are allocated to digital initiatives. This is an increase of around about 20% compared to the 2016 results. And this ends a really, really long time of a kind of a flatliner period in Europe. You can see from 2012 onwards, there was really a stagnation with a slight decrease in allocating budgets to digital initiatives. And now for the first time, it's rising again. This is what we see in our daily work as well. So more and more companies ask for support in a variety of topics, which is also very interesting for us to support. Moving on to the next chapter, I would like to focus a little bit on the multi-channel rep and other statements we ask in the survey on a regular basis. So the multi-channel rep continues to be, let's say, the only channel integration component in which knowledge is really, really growing. The further transformation of the sales force to a real multi-channel rep, which basically means to have a key priority in the next year to, let's say, correlate to budget allocation aspects as well. But in the end, it means equipping a rep with, or for the role of a multi-channel orchestrator, means basically to position them really in the center of the multi-channel process, which means mastering all the tools, mastering the content. These investment needs are there and they are grow because just getting information and insights about channel preferences of the physicians, building up multi-channel frameworks which make possible that multi-channel campaigns can be set up and executed, and even upskilling is a very important factor in this area. Not to mention the setup of a clear digital transformation strategy we were talking about, which covers all relevant aspects. For the sake of completeness, integrated customer databases and a good view of HTTP channel acceptance remain low as well. Coming now to the tactics. I think I'm a little bit quick as well, so just double click, sorry for this. There are no real surprises in the 2017 results. Tablet detailing, as you can see on the top, is still the top tactic and the only real climber. HTTP portals have the largest decrease in the 2017 results. But what's very interesting for us is that approved email is already on the 6th position from 0 because it's the first time included in the survey. We see this in our practice as well. Many of our clients use the approved email approach of a channel to send out personalized emails by the sales rep to connect, for example, to hard-to-reach customers, or even to extend their face-to-face conversation in times of growing access restrictions. This is very important. And closing the thing with focusing on measurement, I want to highlight the measuring impact perception of the respondents. In total, under 20% of the European respondents are very confident or feel very comfortable with the given options of measuring impact and engagement. 17% in total are satisfied with the measurement of results regarding the channels they use in their company, but only 9% regarding HTTP engagement. This leads for us to the fact that there's maybe no comprehensive measurement framework in place, which contains a good mix of qualitative and quantitative KPIs, covering both direct, which basically means channel-related, or indirect, like brand-related aspects. For more details regarding the results of the Maturometer survey, as Fonny already mentioned, there is the full deck available from now on. That's it from my side, and I would like to hand over to Fonny again.
Thanks, Dirk. Taking you through the last part of the, let's say, the Maturometer survey, the conclusions. So the slides that Dirk showed in terms of the key changes, you can find here in a summarized way. And I think the nice thing about this, although it may be a daunting view, but the nice thing about it is that you can easily see where, let's say, most people feel a bit or very uneasy versus the other elements. So how should you read this? It's a global scope. For each of the 12 dimensions we look at, we compare 2016 to 2017. And those areas with the smallest deep orange have, let's say, are perceived as the weakest component. So you can see staff well trained in digital is one of the lowest one, although it is improving, but it's still one of the lowest ones. The channel mix is also quite low. That too is improving, but not significantly. And then what Dirk already mentioned, the multi-channel campaign automation is the lowest by far. So those are the three least strong components. If you look at the strong areas, and I think it's a bit in conflict with what you were saying, although it may sound to be in conflict, I don't think it is. If you look at the first one, the strategy, that scores quite well. You feel there is no strategy. I personally also have a feeling that this may be like, okay, we have a vision, but we don't have a strategy, but at least it scores quite well. And then, as Dirk already mentioned, where people feel most comfortable, really most comfortable, is the multi-channel rep. So that scores absolutely the highest one. It was already quite high last year, but if you look at the increase versus last year, it is, let's say, amazing. Just as number two, the board support is also increasing quite significantly. So these are the two areas where a lot of progress is being made. The board support is increasing. The multi-channel rep is advancing as well. But the level of satisfaction stays low. So probably the strong areas are not as strong as we feel, and the weak areas probably are really weak too. I'm going to skip this. This is also another summary of, let's see what Dirk said. So it puts it all into one picture. I think it's good to have a look at this if you want to present that to your staff. But I think this keeps on intriguing us. So budget is up, support by senior level is up, multi-channel rep is up, but satisfaction remains very low. And I don't think marketing people are typically pessimistic people. So this is a very strange, or let's say unexpected result. So satisfaction level is at the level of 2010. So it means that people feel as unhappy about it today as they did in 2010. If we ask physicians, which we don't have the data in here, but we do ask the same thing, physicians will say the same. They're not very happy with what, let's say, is being offered today by pharma. So maybe some of the strong areas that we've highlighted in the past two slides are not as strong and maybe misleading, and maybe some of the weak areas that are in there are also part of the cause. I don't have a real explanation for it, but that's what we have to assume. Going forward, where do your colleagues put a lot of effort or will put a lot of effort into? Number one is indeed good to see that the focus is going to be more on customer rather than pharma trying to, let's say, touch and push information towards customers, really starting from the customer perspective. That's number one. And in the US, it's even stronger. Number one, so that's the blackish bar. Multi-channel rep is no surprise is number two. And personally, my feeling is that this is very incremental. I think it needs to be done. You need to equip the rep as an orchestrator for sure. But will that really influence your business results? Maybe you will have a somewhat lower cost. Maybe you have a slightly higher customer engagement. But I don't think it will fundamentally alter the way you do business. I think there's much more you can do with digital than working on the rep part of it. It needs to be done for sure, but it may not be enough. When we look at patients, we look at healthcare innovation, those areas are clearly not being fully addressed. Upskilling the organization, number 4, is also a key one still. That will probably be something that will be in there for the next coming years. Customer centricity, number 3, is close to number 1, so that's good to see. But then interestingly as well, the whole area about health techs and digital health and mHealth, whatever you want to call it, healthcare disruption is not seen as a priority today. And my sentiment is that you need to do both. So you need to look at what you can do in the customer engagement space, which is what we see on the top 4 areas. But it would be, I think, a mistake to only look at that part. I think you need to look into what's coming just around the corner, or as one of my colleagues, Peter Hinton, says, the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow may be here sooner than some of us believe. So those areas score quite low, and I think to get a really full, comprehensive view of what digital can do to the commercial model, you would need to include those areas at the bottom there as well. So now complementing the slide I put up that I already gave a voice over just now. So the weaknesses, we covered those. The strengths, maybe the strengths are perceived, are not real. So is the multi-channel rep really a strength that we have, etc. So what are some things you could do going forward? Just a few suggestions. Maybe revisit your multi-channel strategy. If you, the majority of you says this is the big issue, the respondents here say it's not an issue, I would be siding with you fully and say, well, maybe it's time to revisit that strategy, make it a real strategy, rather than saying we need to do more digital, because it is not a strategy, that's a statement. Number 2, go beyond the rep. I think the rep needs to be the orchestrator for the key target audiences. That's, I think, evident. But there's plenty of other opportunities in other segments of the, let's say, customer group, like patients, nurses, pharmacists, non-target physicians, all of those things, payers. Look at those areas, because these are areas that you typically do not cover in a very big way. And digital can really serve that well. Marketing technology can help you reach those not rep-visited physicians, so the marketing automation part. Invest in training. And I think last but not least, make sure that you know what channels, which channels to choose, and how you actually, in your CRM system, in your CLM, and whatever, that you really track and evolve your customer intelligence about their channel affinity in the different stages of the journey. So that's really going to be your, let's say, competitive advantage if you do that well. If you want to know more about this, there's a few things you could do. You could run an internal Maturometer. We're doing this every year several times. Just let us know, and we can actually compare your results with the results that you have just seen. It's very insightful. What you can also do is, if you want to get more knowledge about digital across your organization, we have, let's say, a book that some of you may already have. It's called Evidence-Based Multi-Channel. It covers most of the basics, and it's, let's say, it's quite going well in terms of sales, so that can be ordered. Or if you want to take it more broadly in terms of knowledge, as Dirk said, we are working on a digital transformation model and concept, but we also have workshops. We have a gaming component there. We have e-learning modules, etc. So if you want to know more and want to be quick and speed up, just let us know, and we can certainly help you with that. So with that being said, I just see it's about 40 minutes, so we're well on time. Thank you for your time. I really found this year to be really new, because I've been writing the introduction and the final words for about, well, I think as long as the Maturometer exists. And I was like dreading, like, what should I be writing about? Because nothing has changed probably until I saw the results. So the key results are that the satisfaction levels are still low, but the good thing is the budget is going up, the level of support is going up, the pace, as you in your survey said, is increasing as well. So this will all lead to a faster momentum in the market, and I'm pretty sure that 2017 is that year of, let's say, change, the tipping point. I think I put it too quickly, saying it's going to be in 2016 last year, but it's probably 2017, and I think we're all going to be witness of that fast-paced change. And if this change is going to be anything like the iPad introduction and then the, let's say, comprehensive adoption by all pharma companies in a couple of years' time, we ain't seen nothing yet. So I'm looking forward to a very exciting journey on this topic, see which companies do well, and actually, let's say, show the results of the benefits of doing omni-channel digital, whatever you want to call it. So thank you for your time. Good luck on your journey. Don't wait too long. The tipping point is there, and wish you all of the best. And thank you for your time. We'll see if there's no questions so far, which either may mean that we've been very clear, which I hope has been the case, or there's no questions yet. Feel free to put in questions now or later after the session. Just send us your questions and we'll be happy to address those. As we stated, there's also a survey link available in the attachments part, and in that section you will also find the PDF version of what we presented to you today. So on behalf of Cross Health, Dirk and myself, thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening, and hope to be in touch soon. Oh, we have a question here, sorry. We know pharma is a slow-moving industry, but do you find it worrying that little seems to have changed since 2012 in terms of results? Okay, now we get more questions, that's good. So we haven't finished yet. So we'll address this question first. Pharma is a slow-moving industry, but do you find it worrying that little seems to have changed? Personally, there's one component in here that we didn't fully cover. I think right now there is not a lot of, no harm has been done. Those that have been ahead of the other ones have not been making that a very competitive advantage. The industry has been able to survive because everybody was late, and the Google, etc. competition was not entering here, although that I think on the patient side will be happening quite soon, not on the physician side. So no harm has been done. Is that a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. It's the bad thing? Apparently not. The industry has had, I think, really good margins, so didn't feel the need to actually do this. But we'll start to see companies really take the lead now. And they could have done that many years ago. They probably should have done that. But as nobody really did it, it hurt nobody. But I think this will change now. I see specialty companies coming up with a very focused digital approach. I think also companies with a very small footprint in other markets will try the digital way much more persistently than in the past. So it didn't hurt them in the past, but going forward, I think it would be a big mistake to say that it will last another 3 to 4 years, because it's just going to happen, I think, quite soon. And I always compare it to I always use the words fear and greed here. So two key drivers for change, it's fear and greed. The greed part is not really in play at now for the moment, because as I said, the industry margins have been quite good, so they feel okay. But the fear part, I think, will be coming in. The fear of missing out, the fear of not being in the lead and being crushed by the competition, I think that component will come in. And I think that will change the industry completely. Maybe Dirk, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I totally agree. So I remember one of my former bosses to say it's all about the level of suffering, which has to be big or great enough to complete some change. And I think this is the case here. So I think the pharmaceutical industry is a slow-moving industry, and I think the topics are already identified, and we clearly see that there is movement, that they try to change, that they try to do something different. It's coming up right now, and yeah, this is what I see.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. The second question: do you have data that shows that there's an issue with responsibility struggles between IT and business. I think it's a good question. Ideally, both should work hand in hand. And certainly from a customer perspective, I think all of the departments need to collaborate to create a common vision where I think also the technology platforms are important. I don't think we have a question specifically focusing on that. I think we have one which says, is there, let's say, is there a strong alignment between those two? We do have that, but that's a very general question. I think the score there is quite okay, but it's probably very much the same as it is in other industries. So there's always this disconnect, and I think Gartner predicted that, come 2017, the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, will hold higher budget than the technology budget than the CIO. I think nobody thinks that may necessarily be the right thing to do, but that clearly is happening. So the CMO is not willing to wait, or the CEO is not willing to wait, and may want to prioritize some of those things. I believe personally that all of these things should go hand in hand, and business savvy IT leaders, they do exist, and well, I hope that more of them will come. So that's the only data point we have on that. It's limited, but I think it's something you all see in your organizations as well. So it should ideally go hand in hand, for sure. Okay, all right. Then thank you once again for this. Have a great evening, and well, good luck on your journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much.